Hey there YouTube, what's up? So it's the Sun here, and so I'm here today just to talk about, I guess, for lack of a better word, a product launch, I guess. So I have a HDRI pack that I'm going to be giving away today, so it's just, it's going to be a free pack that's going to be available to anybody who wants to download it. I'll have a link in the description if you want to download it. It's got 51 images. They're just different pictures that I took from, I travel quite a bit, so it's just different places in the world. So the reason I made this is because generally whenever I go out and I find HDRI packs, they're always boring interior scenes and very generic white light, which is good for some things, but some of the stuff that I do, I prefer to have a little bit more dynamic colors in them. So I think when you download the pack, it'll say Descent 098 HDRI pack. And so you have all 50 images in here, and then you'll have a file with test renders of all the different images corresponding with the names, if you want to see what they'd look like in general. So if you saw, Villa Carlotta Princess Room, and you wondered what that looked like, you click on there and you can see a render preview of what the lighting looks like. And yeah, I've also included the test scene with the green cube and the main test scene that was used to make all these test renders here. So yeah, I guess let's just get into kind of what HDRI lighting actually is for those of you who don't know. So for those of you who don't know, HDRI lighting is image-based lighting. And so what that means is if I jump into the green cube test scene here, and I just go ahead and I hide my sky. So generally, if I turn off global illumination, with Cinema 4D you have a default light. So the default light, if I just quickly render out an image here, I have to delete this guy if I want to, but this would be what your default image would actually look like if you just had the default light going on. So very plain, boring colors, just plain white light on top of it, and there's nothing really interesting about this one. I have to actually delete this guy for this to work, so let me just quickly, there we go. So that's what it looks like without any lighting. This is just default. Now if I drop a light in and I just put it directly in front, let's just say right about here, check that on, you can see the white light gives you very good color vibrancy right at the tip of where the light actually touches, but it starts fading out to dark as it gets further and further away, and you lose a lot of the vibrancy that you get with the default light, because the default light is essentially just a fill light. Sorry, not a fill light, it is a flat light, and this is a more targeted approach with the lighting. Another way of there's other various forms of light in here that you can do. There's also the physical sky, which I used to use quite a bit, and the physical sky is really good if you want to add a bit more dynamic color, which I tend to like. So if I check on the blushing winter sunset here and just turn it around a bit and hit render on there, you'll see once we wait an hour for it to actually render, there we go, you can get a decent amount of color in the image just by doing this. But again, the problem is, like I said, it just takes absolutely ages to render with a physical light, with a physical sky, and the reason for that is that the physical sky has a lot more data than you necessarily need in a file, for a lighting file, so it tends to take quite a bit longer to calculate all the information that you need to actually fully render all of this out. If you're doing more intense work, then you could use a physical sky if you want something more accurate, but generally what I'm just going to be talking about today is with the HDRI pack is HDRI lighting. And so what HDRI lighting is if I just drop in a regular sky, and I have some pre-made materials, but I'm just going to make a new one. Just make a material, turn off the reflectance channel, and just drop in an image from the HDRI pack. So let's go with, sure, let's do the Villa Carlotta, the Princess Room that I was talking about. And drop this image onto the sky. Now, when I render this out, I'm just going to stop it because it's taking too long to render out. You'll see that took Let's just wait for it to finish. So that took 5 seconds, and so this is the result that we get. A lot of really nice colors in here. The reflection's a bit messed up on the top. That's to do with the text. That's to do with the texture that I put on the cube, not to do with the texture of the sky. But yeah, so that took 5 seconds to render versus the minute and 21 for it to not even quite finish on the physical sky. To get, I mean, it's not the same result, but it is a semi-similar result. I'm looking for just general colors sort of thing. Normally I wouldn't do this if I wanted reflectance, but it does help to get a bit of nicer reflections. But what I would tend to use this for is if I wanted to add a bit of colored lighting to a more abstract scene. So here's a scene that I was just messing around with. It's an old render that I had that I decided to use one of the ones from the texture pack, the Cortana 2 image for. And so if I just quickly, and this does have global illumination on with the HDR image set on there. And if I just start rendering this out, you'll see here this does give a lot of really nice color and a lot of really nice lighting very quickly. Now that I've said that, it's going to take longer. The other images I wasn't using HDR, that's why it took a bit less time. But as you can see, just with that one HDR image, you get really nice lighting on the mountain, a lot of really nice blue coloring on the mountain, without having to mess around with, you know, chucking either an area light in or a regular light, and then having the blue fill light on top of it to kind of accentuate the color a bit. Like it's just really fast, just chuck an HDR in and do that really quickly. So yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but this is free. Again, like I said, I don't actually know if I said it. I'm sorry, I've done this video about 4 or 5 times now. But yeah, it's free. All the images are non-copyright. You can use them however you see fit. Go nuts, use them commercially, non-commercially. I'm not really too bothered. Just, I don't know, give me a shout in the comments if you do decide to use these images for anything. I just want to kind of see what they get used for. I will say before you download them, they're not the immensely best quality, but I mean, it's just for an HDR image, so it's not really that much of an issue. Generally, you just want the color data from the image, which it doesn't need to be exactly the most insane resolution for it. Like if you just wanted the color data from this, you don't need insane quality for it. Main reason I put this out there, again, like I said, is because a lot of the HDRIs that I find are just very boring and very basic. They're just white colored, which is good for studio lighting, but if you want to get into more stylized stuff, it's a little bit too boring for me personally. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it. 51 images and 51 test renders, so you can check out what they look like beforehand, so you don't have to wait for the render to finish and see what the lighting would approximately look like. I've included the test scene with the green cube and the test scene that I used to make the images, and yeah, I will be coming out with more of these in the future. The next pack that I'm planning on doing is going to be a more studio-esque pack. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making just hand-painted HDRI images to be able to use for lighting. That will be higher resolution and a bit more detailed, with hopefully some more interesting lighting to them. And yeah, that'll be coming out. I'm not sure what time. Again, it's going to take me a while to hand do however many pictures plus test renders and all that garbage. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'll probably include a download link to that if I end up remembering to, or if I end up making the pack. I'll try and remember to. I'm really bad for that, but I'll try and get on as much as I can. And yeah, I guess I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and happy rendering.